One of the devious things about play is that when you're really engaged with it and you are really having fun, you'll actually work harder than you've ever worked in your life.
And you're present.
And you're
You're like,
present, yeah. Yeah, and it seems to come for free. You're like, oh, well, the amount of time I put into playing tennis or doing yoga or running or reading and writing books, like, well, that's not work. That's free time. That's play. But the amount of time I have to put into looking for a job or doing these spreadsheets, like that's work. And can I train my brain to find the playful side of these other tasks that I have to do?
so excited to share with you this interview with Kirk Lynn, and I'd like to introduce him to those that don't know him. Kirk Lynn is one of the head teachers at University of Texas in Austin for playwriting and theater. He is a groundbreaking playwright himself and has been writing plays since he'll share with you. He was very young in his undergrad at the University of Texas in Austin, and there he found, with a group of fellow creatives, he found the rude mechanicals, and this is one of the most amazing devised theater, experimental theater troupes that I have ever encountered. And I was lucky enough when I was at the University of Texas learning playwriting to go watch some of their methodology, thanks to Kirk. And he's written many of their plays, but not all of their plays. Some of the plays that he's written with the Rudes was Lipstick Traces, Method Gun was my favorite, and a huge touring favorite around the US, if not, I think, the world. And he also wrote Stop Hitting Yourself with them. And then he's written plays outside of that troupe as well. One of my favorites is Your Mother's Copy of the Karma Sutra. And after talking to him, it sounds like they might be trying to make that into a screenplay. He is a screenwriter as well. His latest play, a screenplay that was on the big screen, was co-written with my other mentor, Stephen Dietz, What Happens Next? And that's starring Meg Ryan, David Duchovny. He's also a novelist. If I was in my studio right now, I'd go grab his book because I have it on my bookshelf, Rules of Werewolves. This is a lot of accolades and a lot of work coming from Kirk in his own adventures to play, but I think what he is most talented in is being a mentor and a teacher. This is a big swath of work, and I'm not even naming them all, but I want to say that I believe he's equally as talented and in the mentorship and guidance of young folk into their own creative process. And that's what makes him such an amazing teacher. He is one of my favorite teachers of all time. Here's Kirk Lynn. Hi, welcome. This is Holly with Heart Mind with Holly, and I'm here with my longtime mentor, deep friend, Kirk Lynn. And I am so excited to have you. It's just a privilege to be with you today and to talk to you about this theme, play.
Hey.
And one of the things we were just talking about before we got on was like this idea of calming the thoughts. And I just wanted to say one of the things with the podcast is I'm trying to help expand this idea of the mind not being just our thoughts and
Yeah.
being much greater and actually centered here in the heart. So that's the idea of the heart mind, is trying to reorient ourselves to what mind means, really. So
Oh, I feel that deeply. I think that, yeah, when I was introduced to the idea that we are not our thoughts, it felt liberating. I have thoughts, but they don't define me.
yeah, that's a difficult one. And and we're not even necessarily our emotions or our actions. Like, so then what are we, is the big, spiritual question. Um,
Right. Yeah. I
and I
think I
want to
probably,
touch. Go
struggle
ahead.
with the idea that even I'm me. Like one of my practices is to also try and break down the idea that I'm me, that I'm part of something bigger, um, and that the self is really a big impediment. It's like the last lesson to get over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find that, yeah, the self is that's the journey that I've been going on, whether it was writing plays or whether it's been this other kind of work I've been doing more, um, trying to really nut out what the hell is the self, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Is it even real?
so, we're going to be talking about play, and you teach play. You're a professor in play, let's say. And I want to hear about your journey a little bit more first of what kind of led you to teaching it and being so, and it seems like you're very passionate about the content of it. Uh, Starting with maybe like what drew you to writing and theater and play.
I really met writing first, and I would probably say this is still my greater passion is just being a reader. I love books. I love being in the world of literature, and also literature sounds sort of high-minded. I like all kinds of books, and in fact, sometimes my graduate playwrights, I sort of quiz them on what they read just for fun, not to improve themselves, but just to like engage with um, literature and other people's thoughts. Um, and my shorthand I say with them is you always need some dragon books. Because one student finally confessed to me she liked dragon books, and I was like, "That's great! You should have a stack of dragon books you can always go to." So whatever that is for you, you should have both things that you study, but also places you can go that are just for um, refreshment, relaxation, rejuvenation. So as a kid, uh, I mean, I think it's interesting that so my father is a barber and my father can't read, and my mother's a school teacher and taught Montessori and taught little kids to read. And I always thought that was perplexing. Even as a child, I knew there's something really strange there. And I think I learned a love of language from my father's barbershop and the way he tells jokes and teases people. He has a really strong uh, he shows affection through teasing, and he teases everybody that comes through his barbershop, and it's a really great feeling. And at the same time, I had this mother who would just feed me books, would buy me any book that I wanted. And so I was surrounded by language from these two different sort of poles. And I guess at some point, maybe it was a particular teacher in middle school, I think in sixth grade, that really opened up the idea that like you don't just have to read books, you could make books. I know she gave me a composition book that I still have. That's one of those little modeled black and white composition books, and she wrote on the front Kirk Lynn, writer, and it was
Oh,
just like it like really changed my perspective of the world, um, and started me down this path that like oh I could also make things, and let people in a certain way. And I think the amount of I mean, I spend uh, an inordinate amount of time reading, and then also just more than anything, I create more text than anyone will ever see. There's a lot of writing that's just for fun, that's just for play, that's just trying to center myself or find myself, or engage ideas that might be passing through me. And I don't have a lot of anxiety about whether it will add up to anything or not. Um, and so I was a reader and I loved books. And by the time there was another big shift when I got into college, when I was in undergrad, I was writing a lot of short stories and poems, and I was particularly lonely. I was writing them
mm,
and sending them off to magazines, and this was in the old days when you would get rejection slips back, and I would post them up on my wall. I was doing all the right work, I think, as a writer, but I was really lonely, and I had a very conscious idea that if I wrote plays, I would have friends. And so I started writing plays so that I could invite people over to my apartment to read them with me. And it worked out great. It was amazing. I suddenly had more people in my life, and way led onto way. And I ended up in this theater collective, Rude Mex, that we've been a theater collective for 30 years. It's these
yeah.
relationships that have spanned many selves, and we really take good care of each other. We fight a lot too, but the times when people have, everything from like needing a new car or needing somebody to pay their rent or going through recovery or divorce, like we take good care of each other. They're a short list of people that if I called would just come and get me. They wouldn't ask what's the matter. They'd just show up. Um, and
Did you
that's kind
play?
of,
Can I kind
yeah.
of track back a little bit? Did you play a little bit, or did you remember playing and being having that robust kind of sense of play when you were a kid, and then at some point that got kind of more isolated or lonely, like you were talking about that progression?
I mean, I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and seeing them, their spirit sort of move through the public school system. There are times when there are teachers that are less encouraging of the playful spirit. I know that I'm a lot. I'm very loud. Uh, I'm certainly very always thinking about could we do this a different way? What if we did it this way? Which I assume is annoying to a lot of people. Um, so I was always really playful. I definitely met moments where my spirit wasn't always encouraged. Um, and I think there's something about maturing. It's funny when my kids were littler, the idea of like, I was really moved at their school. They have just like a friendship bench where if you're lonely, you just go sit there. And the other kids know that if you're sitting on that bench, you want a friend. And so they come over and sit with you. And I was
Oh.
like, that is so great. We need that for adults, that as you get older, it's harder just to um, enter into play with other people. There are these milestones of development with like parallel play and then learning to like interact with one another and play together. And I think society, I think our sense of shame, I think lots of things stop us from just reaching out to people and going like, "Hey, I see that you're wearing a shirt of my favorite band. I like that band too." Like we become sort of tighter and smaller, and maybe that's some of what was happening at the beginning of college. I was in a new space. It was harder to meet people. And so in a lot of ways, writing plays was just an excuse to get people to play with me.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You said to make friends, but it sounds like also for a particular purpose, and it seems connected to me to that sense of play
Oh,
because, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things play does is that when you have, either a deck of Uno cards or you're at the club dancing, like you have this third thing that you're doing where you're not, you can, the pressure of looking directly at someone and just going like, "Hey, I think I might like you," is like redirected into like, "Oh, we're playing." And so we can talk and get to know each other, but it's not as like direct. Um, just this morning, I was going for a run and I had the greatest conversation with this. There was a gentleman that was at the same stop as I was, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to talk to him about." And we had this really funny conversation. He was a little bit older than me, and he was like, he said something like, "When I was younger, I would just run across the street, but I don't know if I would make it." And I looked him up and down. I was like, "I think you could make it. Like, I'll tell you when to go." And he was like, "No, you go first and block for me." And like we were like playing in this little moment. That was really lovely. I actually wrote it down in my journal as a thing, like just a thing that I would forget if I didn't capture it. Of
Yeah.
a strange, interesting moment of play with an older man. It was great.
I love it. Yeah. I was just talking this morning too to another practitioner. She does arts therapy, arts expression therapy, but she was saying she was working with another teacher to try to do what you're talking about, like particularly in middle school, like bring more play back in that. And it reminds me, I use this quote a lot, although I probably bastardize it, but of Brecht, and he was saying enjoyment, you have to have that as an ingredient to learn.
Yeah,
Like it's it's not just entertainment. It's like if you're going to learn something, you need to enjoy it, and that's part of what I think play can do. Obviously, we're going to get into it a bit more, but there can be all kinds of sorts of play. But um, that seems crucial to, like you're saying, those kind of times when we start to get more academic in middle school, high school.
yeah, and we freeze up a little, and then adults are the worst. Like,
I know.
I yeah, adults are the worst at being serious about things and losing that like the importance of pleasure, um, and that we should all want to be here. Um,
But do you
yeah,
think it starts then? Because we're kind of teaching them, like we're zapping it out of them.
Yeah, I mean, we can see the importance and value of, say, dividing fractions, which is a thing I'm struggling with right now with my son. And it is important, but we get lost, like, we fixate on the importantness of it and lose the sort of the importance of being curious about how numbers work and how the world works and how your mind works in relationship to it. And that this might all be fun. I mean, the long form
Mm,
argument I'm having with my son in the seventh grade is that basically school should be fun, and what can we do to help you like it? And it's really, I think it's inviting the best part of me in to say, well, you teach play. Can you? I teach a lot about my interactions with my children and with my wife. I have so many stories about where I learned from them. And now I feel like I'm called on to like, oh, well, I need to invite more play into these experiences so that he can feel the pleasure of him figuring things out. And it's a great task.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like with my, I do therapy work now more, and it's something I have to come to often with people. I just literally did it yesterday, and I knew I was going to talk about it today because it's like, okay, this person's unemployed, trying to find work, but also trying to lower anxiety while doing it. It's like, okay, how can we make this process fun?
Yeah.
you know, of the possibilities of all the places you could work. Because once you get in it, you're gonna have there's not as many possibilities. So, like, how can we make this process of applying to jobs fun?
Right. And it's a task that if you can learn how to do it, I do think it's a strength that people have. And I do think you can teach it to sort of how do we learn to be playful and how do we learn to take tasks we have to do. I mean, one of the devious things about play is that when you're really engaged with it and you are really having fun, you'll actually work harder than you've ever worked in your life. The
And you're
things that you
present,
love, yeah. What?
and you're present.
And you're
You're like,
present. Yeah. Yeah. And it seems to come for free. You're like, oh, well, the amount of time I put into playing tennis or doing yoga or running or reading and writing books, like, well, that's not work. That's free time. That's play. But the amount of time I have to put into looking for a job or doing these spreadsheets, like that's work. And can I train my brain to find the playful side of these other tasks that I have to do?
hmm. So I met you. You were already kind of. How long had you been at UT when I came in? Do you
Good
remember
Lord. I didn't,
working as a? Yeah,
I think my brain basically like I know who are students this year, and then everything in the past is one big soup. I think
yeah,
I've been here. I think this is my 16th or 17th year. I was a pretty young professor though.
yeah,
Yeah, I was just starting out. I think probably in my second or third year is my guess.
yeah.
Um,
You were definitely the cool young professor.
I don't know that that's how I felt, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think it felt like, yeah, how do I get paid more money? Will I have a job next year? And why aren't I as wise as these other professors? They seem so good at teaching, and I didn't seem good at teaching.
Well, I got to tell you, like, I want to go into it because I think it might have been the first year, or I'll ask you, like, but you really changed my life and created a huge support system for me. And every time we met, we would meet, for talking about a play, but just support. I was your TA for a little while. Sometimes we would meet for that. But every time we met, I felt like you were just with me. I
Yeah,
never felt like really, and you involved me like you're doing right now. You involved me in your life, and I know that's part of your just way of being, but it really put an impression on me. And I felt that with the classes that I took with you too. I took some with you, and then again, I was your TA. You had this way of starting the class usually with a poem back then. Do you still do that?
sometimes depends on the class. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes I just bring
Um,
yeah to in some ways like ringing a bell or something to just change the space. There's a
yeah.
kind of uptightness, and like, what if we invite the spirit in? I joke a lot too about leaving the door open, and sometimes I literally get up and go open the door because I'm like, I want to make sure the spirit can get in. And students think I'm a lunatic, but you're like, yeah, but trust me, the spirit might want to come in, and we want to be ready if it shows up. Uh,
I love it. And that's kind of you're starting it from there, like that spirit of play, but also presence. Like that really was uh very I don't know, impressionable on me, and in a time where I really needed it. And I just love the way that you would start and you would create ceremony a bit. And then to me, how it ties into yoga too is just this sense of like real curiosity, presence, that you would always start with. Do you remember? I felt like it was the first year that you taught this particular subject. And I remember you kind of being like trying to figure it out, like, how am I going to teach play as a class, a semester?
Yeah, it's been interesting to learn to teach. I feel like I've learned so much. Um, my memory is that for a while I taught this class on the performance of prayer, where I thought I would teach prayer the way we teach poetry. Like, can we just look at prayer across cultures and across time and think about what makes a good prayer? And the class went really well. The students enjoyed the material and even the reading, but they hated writing papers. They had to write papers and they hated that part. And I remember really hitting this moment in my own brain where I was like, the thing that I think is the most fun and the moment where they get to really play and have fun and just write, they're experiencing as painful. And that is where I really steered my brain to like, oh, if I think of this as play, can I teach them to just think of almost any task that they have to do as play? The writing will be the example. We'll talk about play, but we'll use it all to sort of trick ourselves into really enjoying this practice. And that was the challenge to myself, uh, or that's my memory of how I got into play. And then some of it was just like dousing myself in play literature, which I keep thinking I mean just this summer as I was prepping some writing I was doing, and I rewrite the class every single semester. I keep finding new play scholars that I'm like, how can I 10 years in still be finding new scholars I've never read before who have totally unique and wild takes on what it is that we're doing. We may be in a really rich time for people thinking like taking um, treating play playfully and deeply.
Right, philosophically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So tell me a little bit about what you know about play.
What do I know about play? It's gonna run away as soon as I try and grab. I know that about play. I mean, a task I ask my class to do now at the beginning of each class is like just describe play to me, define it. And as we start dealing with what play might be or might not be, the class, it's usually a class of 60 students, and they get this sense that like, oh yeah, it's very big and very amorphous, and that like, um, it's not necessarily limited to games, and that you can make money playing, so it can be work, but you can also do like what I think of as play, you might hate doing. Like it just grows in the sense that like I guess I'm trying to invite the idea that in some ways play is a spirit that you put on things. We can do this interview as work, or we can do this interview as play. We can search for a job as work, or we can search for it as play. And then in some ways it's a spirit. One of the things I very much hold on to, or I think I'll stand my ground on this, is that I've been fascinated by the ways in which play is entirely consensual, that you have to agree to play. You can't force someone else to play with you. Um, and I often
Mm,
remember this moment when my daughter, a babysitter, we were paying a babysitter at the end of the night, and my daughter was a little freaked out. She was like, "Why are you paying her?" And we were like, "Well, she came and spent time with you." And she was like, "Yeah, but we played Candyland and we did drawings." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Well, we both did those things. Why are you paying her?" And
and not me.
I think her heart was a little broken in the idea that like she was moving the marker on Candyland, but she wasn't necessarily playing. She was working. Like this idea that like, wait a second, I'm playing and she's working. This is weird. Like my daughter knew there was something strange about that. And
Yeah.
as a parent, and I know as a parent, there are moments when we are um, doing Legos or doing Candyland, but we're not playing. And
And
that's when it can feel heavy. And when you can invite yourself to like, well, if I'm gonna do Legos anyway, I'm gonna play Legos. I'm not just gonna do them um, because that's the task the child is doing. I'm going to be with them. Um, and I definitely find myself doing my job rather than playing my job. And that's when I'm a less good professor. It's when I'm a less good dad. Um, and so being able to invite yourself into the spirit of play with any task that you do, I think is vital. And then the idea
do
you
you
can't
think
force, like having students that are like, if you don't want to engage with the lecture I'm giving or with the exercises, or I can't make you, I have to, I think of like, initiating or seducing or inviting, like you have to create a kind of disequilibrium where the people sort of tumble into play rather than being forced to do assignments.
Yeah, so you can't force play, but someone could, for example, with the kids, to make it really simple, like they could be in the play spirit, but you're not. So one person could be involved in the play while someone is not, but they are interacting.
Yeah, they are interactive. Yeah. And you realize like what is this strange thing? Like why does this feel different? Um, I think usually you can tell. I mean, we probably all know these things from like, well, from parenting, but also from like the romantic world where you're like, I think I'm on this date, but they're not on this date with me. They're here with me. They're eating dinner. They're like, but something's not happening. And that sense of play where it's like, I've been talking to a lot of my grown men friends about how basically be more playful with their wives. Of like, if you want a certain kind of relationship with your wife, you should be more playful. You should, when you go to dinner, you should not know what's going to happen, meaning the ways
Mm.
in which you're going to talk, the things you're going to talk about, the ideas that you might pursue. And I think some of them find themselves unsettled by that, and some of them. I just had a friend tell me like I that he went to dinner with his wife. He took my advice, and that she had a long time ago bought these conversation cards that he thought were stupid, and he was like, "I'm not doing it." And he brought them to dinner, and in the middle of dinner, he it was a thing that his wife had clearly thought might be helpful to them, and he brought them out at dinner, and he was like, it was amazing. It was so great. And so I think there was this
Mm.
generosity of like, oh, you bought these once and I turned them down, but now I'm going to engage with them. And he said they had a great conversation.
Mhm. So yeah, you wrote to be like play is consensual. It's also finite.
Yeah, it's one of the best things about it too, that it begins and it ends. Um, you can I mean, I can think about all these times when there was a time hanging out with my daughter. She had to hang out with me all day, and we were mostly going to the park and going to the place where we get cinnamon rolls. And every place we went, she was like, "Can I have your phone?" And I was like, "No, you can't have my phone. You can have my phone." She had to come with me to my doctor, and I was like, "While I'm talking to my doctor, you can have my phone then and only then." And so each place we went, we go to the park and she's like, "Can I have your phone now?" I'm like, "No, only while I'm at the doctor." And we finally hit this moment where I said, um, I made a rule it, I'm gonna stick with it. And in part so that you know you can trust me. So that also when I say I love you, you'll know that I mean that. That you can have my phone here. That's the only time you can have it. I mean that. And when I say I love you, I mean that. And my daughter was like, okay, cool, cool. And about 3 minutes went by, and then she was like, "Can I have your phone now?" Um, but I think this idea that we can suspend play at any moment if we feel unsafe, we can take a time out. If we're uncertain of how things are working, play has this suspendability that maybe uh, sometimes, like if you're being a student or if you're in business or thing, where it's like it's harder to suspend things and say, "Wait a second, I don't feel this doesn't feel right." Um, Being able to take a time out and either be serious and sincere or um, ask questions, I think is one of the great features of play.
Yeah, but in that vein, it keeps making me think like you have to be somewhat mature then with that kind of play, because play can turn kind of nasty.
Oh yeah. I don't think play is good in and of itself. My students are often shocked when I hit that moment where like you can hurt people through play. Like play is not a virtue. It's a spirit. And I mean, the timeout thing, probably we can all think of moments when we're teasing or bantering with either a sibling or our parents or something, and it crosses a line. And in a good, healthy play environment, you can say, hold on a second, that one actually hurt my
Mm.
feelings. Do you really think that? Or were we being playful, and try and back up a little bit? Um, but we also know people that uh, they cross a line and they won't stop and they keep going. And then I think we shouldn't play with those people, or we shouldn't play in that way with those people. Um, yeah, because play absolutely hurts people.
Yeah, it can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things you said was you define play as a pursuit of pleasure for the sake of improvement. How do you feel like that definition has shaped that creative process for you or that play process for you?
Yeah, and it should probably be noted that I hope many people bridle at that. A lot of my students bridle at that. It's sort of the definition for me that works for me. And one of the reasons I say that, I mean, I think the pursuit of pleasure is really important. The reason I'm doing this is to make myself happy, and I get it by feeling some sense of improvement, either a deepening engagement with myself and the world, just on a spiritual level, or I feel like I'm getting better as a writer, or I'm getting better as a tennis player, or as a runner. And one of the reasons I make that distinction is because I think we live in a world of great distraction where like there's no
Mm.
denying, or I think it would be foolish to deny that TikTok or Instagram Reels are pleasurable. But I also think Taco Bell and cigarettes are pleasurable, but you can't like become a better Taco Bell eater or a better cigarette smoker, and you can't really become a better consumer of TikToks. It's a pleasure that doesn't in some ways it doesn't care about you at all. It just I need somebody to smoke me and eat me and scroll through me, and it could be you or anybody else. But when we're deeply engaged in a play practice, it feels like I think many of us feel like I matter as much to running or meditating as meditating matters to me. The meanness of me is expressed through this activity. I run a certain way, I play tennis a certain way, and the way I do it, my style is like valued inside the sport in a certain way. Whereas the way I eat Taco Bell doesn't care about how I
Well, it reminds
engage
me
with
of
it.
even taking it to a smaller level, whether, it's improvement with goals. Even when we were talking about the child example with the Legos, it's like the only thing we that's super finite, right, is time. Like we
Yeah.
only got so much time. And so it improves the like energy of that moment that we're never going to get the 5 minutes back again, right? And
Yeah.
so it improves the quality of that is what it makes me think of too. And therefore, like we've gotten more out of those 5 minutes.
Yeah. And that feeling that is hard to describe, but we can all probably know that feeling of like, oh, dad was really here with me. He was really engaged.
Mm,
And they can definitely tell when like, well, dad was here, but he was checking his email or he was stressing out about work. Uh, my kids are really attuned to when I'm thinking about work. And
mm,
they're not into it. They're like they're very demanding of my like actually be here. You're like, cool, I can do that. Most of
yeah.
it.
So tell me a tiny bit, and then I'll dig
Yeah.
maybe about these archetypes that you now teach too.
So one of the things that also struck me is when I first started researching play, I thought, oh, play is when I feel free and when I'm totally at ease. And then as I started digging into it just in my own personal experience, it's like, oh no, play is when I'm really tense in a certain way. I'm really engaged. Um, Whether it's a good novel, a good movie, or a good hard run, or feeling like I'm dancing the prettiest I can at the club or whatever, like I'm usually tense in a really pleasurable way. And so I started thinking about tensions rather than freedoms. And the tensions led me to these archetypes, which I think for me hold both sides of the tension. And so I talk about the archetype of the road, that when we travel, there's this tension between inspiration and direction. And you wouldn't want to be so focused on your direction. We all probably know this feeling too of like, I've got to get to this place at this time, and then you can't see anything around you.
Mm,
But you also can't be so inspired that you just are constantly distracted by everything that moves past you, or you'll never get anywhere. And so there's this wonderful tension when we feel like we're on our way somewhere where we know where we're going, we have an instinct about where we're going, we're directed, but we're also able to notice the world around us. And it's the things that journey, uh, the things that are being given to us by that journey. Um, and then the field, there's an archetype of the field, um, which really comes from, there's a lot of beautiful writing about what in play theorists they call the magic circle. That usually when you're playing, you feel like you're inside this magic circle. Most people recognize it when a good play or a good movie turns off and your life sort of comes back on. You're like,
mm,
oh my God, I wasn't thinking about all those emails. And now that beautiful movie's over, and now my life is back with me. That you're sort of protected inside the magic field. And I think there's a wonderful tension between rules and the feeling of freedom. And that it's kind of a paradox that often more rules actually make us feel more free. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, these are the, and I think of these as like spaces where, um, I mean, really the metaphor of my son has his middle school dance tonight. I've been thinking a lot about dances and dancing, and that if he were to just show up to school in the clothes he's going to wear and wiggle the way he's going to wiggle, people will be like, "Oh my God, you're so strange." But there's this space where he's going to get to wear special clothes and he's going to be allowed to wiggle, and it's going to be a magic circle. Like these rules about what's acceptable in this space. And the rules will also be that like we're going to turn the lights down a little bit lower and the teachers are going to let you be loud. And so the rules have changed to make this feeling available. And then the last two archetypes, one is the flag, which is I think there's a tension between self and others. And I even include a tension between the many selves we have inside ourselves. The
Mm-hmm.
play usually invites a kind of engagement between either our many selves or between individuals, self and other. Um, and I think of the flag waving so you know which team you belong to. Um, I have an experience a lot that I think is very funny where I grew up as sort of a punk rocker and now I dress like a professor, middle-aged professor. And when I walk across campus, if I do see a punk rocker, I go like, hey. And there's always this weird moment where they're like, wait, why are you? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not wearing the right flags for you to recognize me in my true form. But trust me, I was once a punk rocker. Um, and then the coin is the last archetype, which a strange feature of play is that we like to engage with randomness from a coin flip or spinning a dial or rolling die. And there's a kind of tension between randomness and resilience. We really want this randomness, not because we want things to be chaotic, but because we want to see how we'll react and how resilient we can be in these moments. Um, I think a lot about how when we play rock, paper, scissors, we don't just choose one symbol and then the next time we meet someone, we go like, oh, well, I'm rock, you're paper, you've won. We get to be resilient and go like, oh, I'm going to try a new thing. I'll be a different person. I'll be scissors today.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
I love this. I love that your archetypes are kind of objects or like almost, yeah, objects a little bit more too. And the thing about the
Yeah.
tension that's really interesting too is, in yoga, it's all about tension as well, particularly hatha yoga, but I would argue some other types as well. But because that's what you're kind of trying to create is this sense of tension between 2 points. And then
Hmm.
that creates a force that allows you to be more present.
I was gonna say, yeah, tension makes presence. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
there's nothing harder than like stillness or stability. So you're like, I've got to stay here. I've got to stay present in my mind and my body so that I can hold this moment. Um, yeah, it's interesting that you're probably more present in stillness than you are in. But I mean, um, our world wants. We're called upon a lot to be in motion, to go from meeting to meeting, or email to email, or screen to screen, and it keeps us from being present in a certain way. The world's not really asking for a lot of stillness, um,
Mm,
and so we get to like move quickly, but then sort of wake up at the end of the day and go like, wait, what happened today? Where was I?
mm. How do you feel like knowing these archetypes, teaching these archetypes, how does it support your students or yourself in your daily life?
It's the when it works, it feels really deeply engaging. I'm at the beginning of a semester. We've just entered into fields. We've moved from roads into fields. We've talked about plays, and now entering into fields. And my students are rewarding me with their own thoughts about it, their own um, friction around the idea of one of my students really doesn't like the pursuit of pleasure for improvement and really wants to replace improvement with transcendence. And as you can imagine, I'm like, that sounds great. That sounds amazing. And I was like, you should definitely use that for you. And I'm going to think about whether or not I want to change it for me, or maybe even change it in my writing and my thinking. Um, and they're very deeply engaged, some of them with times when they've played and it's been dangerous or it's been bad for them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel deeply rewarded. When the class is working well, I feel like I'm co-authoring the class with my students. I mean, I have uh, put in a certain number of hours reading a bunch of texts, but then the conversation is really like, what's your experience? And I also very much think um, they know things that I don't know. We're just entering into this phase where I'm making them think about how their families play, how groups that they belong to play, and they're going to present to me all these like experiences of play through the world. And every year, then I add the kinds of play they introduce me to into the next class. One of my
Mm,
favorite things I teach now is about imaginary friends. And I really only came to it because some students were like, you lectured all year and you never once mentioned imaginary friends. And I was like, oh my God, how fascinating. Tell me about imaginary friends. And yeah, it changed my life to start thinking about imaginary friends. This
mm.
play that we do with others, but the others are made up. Um, and now it's one of my favorite lectures to get to, is to like think about how we play with imaginary friends.
Mhm. So my audience is geared towards, and you've mentioned it, and I feel like we've been talking to it towards it, but that kind of spirituality and or even like a sense of healing. And I came to theater to for that sense of healing. I'm curious what you would think about, or if y'all talk about how play interacts with spirit and or helps to support like that's interesting with the transcendence potentially, but
Mhm.
also improvement. He like heals us or starts to mend part of ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, a healthy play community, I think, provides a kind of security and it provides us a lot of space of like, what if? And I think those of us that are on different kinds of healing journeys, the idea that we can imagine ourselves differently, we can imagine ourselves whole, God forbid,
Mm.
uh, or changing or growing or imagine ourselves not feeling this way eventually. We can be different. Um, I mean, my brain's sort of ping-ponging all over, but like, uh, my daughter loves Renfest. I never went to Renfest before until my daughter wanted to go to Renfest. And then I was like, what an amazing world this is. And it's interesting to see the kind of characters my daughter wants to make. And they're usually kind of bigger, bolder, brasher than she is in her daily life at high school. And I think it makes a space where she feels safe enough to just take up more space and be more outrageous and be more stronger, more noticeable.
What is
Um,
Renfest? Is it? It sounds like
Oh,
costume.
Renaissance Festival, where I think it's
Oh,
where
Renaissance. I
all
should
theater
know
people
that.
end up there eventually. But there's Robin Hood and the knights but it's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
expansive that there's also my daughter is usually some sort of rabbit creature, um, and she's quite welcomed there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like a lot of healing work that I end up doing is starting to see how much we sacrifice ourselves to, make something work in the family or in the community. And so part of play is, like you're saying, that imagination being able to be expressed or just that creativity starting to be able to be expressed. But one of the things with your archetypes that it made me think about too is that the tension, it's also seeing tension and or discomfort of those disparate points as play versus um, maybe just, that heightened stress of feeling pulled.
Yeah. But in a good moment, I think, or a good play community, it's a heightened stress that you can also set down when you need to. You can be different. Um, I mean, the things that are not finite for me are like being a dad. I'm never not a dad.
Right.
I'm never not married. I think there's a certain engagement with capitalism that's hard to put down most of the time. And weirdly, in a play space, I, I can be not dad for a while. Certainly when I'm really drawn into a novel, I can be not married in the confine. I mean, I don't ever want to not be married. And I want to read this book because I want to feel some feelings again toward a character that's not my wife. Toward like there are
Mm.
these things where I can, and certainly as someone who um, is on a healing journey, I can also put down abuse. I can put down for these this for the 2 hours while I'm inside this movie, I'm not feeling that legacy. I can be other, and I can start to imagine what it is like to be other. Um, and then you come back to it, and you might come back to it stronger or different, or with a new way you might go through, the way you might go through life.
Yeah, I think for me, that's like one huge aspect, and that's kind of again that it's a combination of creativity, but also that big what if and that big suspension. And sometimes yoga can look at distraction as a bad thing, but I really don't. I think it can be that suspension type distraction that we need for our bodies to like restore and reset, like you're
Yeah.
saying, to put the abuse down and okay, I can just really let my system be at ease in this imaginary world. But then there's another aspect with like you were talking about with the danger or with the it's like we get to replay a little bit when you were talking about tension or, entering those states in some of those archetypes even of like risk or, randomness. Sometimes that can be really triggering. But we get to play with that within our system where maybe the stakes aren't as high as they have been.
Yeah, or I say a lot that we can learn real things about ourselves in fictional circumstances. So, people that play video games, I don't play a lot of video games, much to my children's dismay. But say like when I do play Mario Kart with my children, and I can find real things out about myself, like how much risk I'm willing to take, how much danger I'm willing to experience, how willing I am to crash. When the car crashes, I don't experience any physical pain. I don't have to get repairs. But I do learn something real about myself of like, oh, I'm willing to be risky. Or what kind of teammate I am, what kind of friend I am. Like those are real things about myself that happen in imaginary circumstances. Um, and it very much happens for me when I read, when I'm inside a novel or when I write, like I can see what kind of person I am and I'm learning something real about myself, but the consequences um, are not dire. I mean, I sob when I read. My children have definitely sobbed when they've played video games. Like it's not that the stakes are zero, but the
Right.
stakes are qualified by the magic circle that they don't carry on outside that magic circle.
Hmm. Well, is there anything else you feel like we didn't touch on that is like that you talk about that really um feels essential or you want to say about this topic?
I mostly want to encourage myself. I really write and think about play as a way to keep myself um, engaged and present in the world. And just that, I mean, right now, every day in my journal, I write down at the top of it, I write, try things a new way. And then I write that differently every day because I'm supposed to be trying things a new way. Um, that I really want play, and if it makes a vehicle for anybody to like feel unstuck or like there are other ways that the I think often we can feel stuck and the world feels stuck, and that the idea that like, but it's not. We can try things a new way. We can be in a new way with ourselves and with others. Gives me great hope, and I need that
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah, I've always felt that sense from you like you're creating the hope that you need and you're kind of emanating it. I sense it with you every time I'm with you.
I hope so. Thank you.
I have some quick fire questions and some of them are um they have some depth to them if you like, but they're kind of it's inspired obviously, I think I told you by the Lipscomb kind of quick fire questions. And so I'm looking for like a word or two words, maybe a sentence at the most kind of thing. Short
Right. This is the whole
answers.
reason I'm here. I did all of this just so I could play these questions with you. This is why I'm
Good.
here.
Yeah,
Finally.
it is the play.
Yeah.
So what makes your spirit expand, Kirkland?
Laughter.
Mm. What makes your spirit contract?
Uh, to-do lists.
What emotion has been your greatest teacher?
Oh, I would say anger.
Mm. What do you collect that says the most about you?
Uh, oh, so many things are jumping through. I mean, probably books, maybe fountain pens,
I like that one.
and
Um,
expensive journals.
mm. What do you wish you could learn?
I'm really, oh, is it few words as possible?
Yeah.
Uh, that I'm part of something larger.
Mm. And what do you wish you could unlearn?
Probably anger.
That is your greatest teacher.
I know.
What is the top of your bucket list with places or events to go to do, to be?
This weekend is I'm taking my son to his middle school dance, and then I'm going to a punk concert with my daughter. Like those, I'm doing the things I want to do, and then
Awesome.
any chance I can get, I have a goal for myself to go canoeing a certain number of times a year. Canoeing is the future. We're all going to be
We have a
canoeing.
canoe. Yeah, we have a canoe. We love it.
Yeah.
All right. Last couple. If you consciously met your soul before birth, what would it whisper to you?
My soul would be like, come on, come on, come on. Like,
Love it. And then last one, what will would your 10-year-old self from now, future self, thank you for?
uh, staying 9, being a little boy. Yeah. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I can't thank you enough, Kirk. I
Thank
can't stop.
you.
I'm getting little just from smiling so much, I'm getting a little tension here in my jaw. I really I
Good.
just love you so much and I can't thank you enough.
I love you too. Let's hang out soon, even without all this. It'll be
Yeah,
great.
I would love that.
All
You
right.
know,